I'm Earl Morgan, your host, and with my co-host, Tinia Bland, who is my good right arm. Even though she's sitting to my left. We're doing our show our shows now are being done at the Brightside Tavern at 141 Bright Street in Jersey City. This is the place, folks, let me tell you. You gotta come down here, the food is great, the company is good, the guy that owns this place is wonderful, and did I say the food is great?
And you meet everyone
and you meet everybody here. So please come down every other Monday. We will announce the date that we will be back here again. We want all the people who have helped us to survive as the Earl Morgan Hour, now going into a reincarnation as in the spotlight, to come down. And for a few minutes now, we're going to talk about some things that we have coming up here in Jersey City from the Astor Place. It's not even a neighborhood association.
No,
you know, this thing has gone from being a block association to a neighborhood association to what now again?
Astor Communities Alliance.
Now, what the Astor Community Alliance is doing now, which is, I think, interesting, we're having a forum. The 31st Assembly District candidates are up for election, and we don't have any incumbents, so we have people running on the Democratic Party, with the Hudson County Democratic Organization line, and the Republican.
And the Republican.
And this is an important, this election has become the election in the county. And it's going to be an interesting situation because we have some people challenging the Democratic Party here, which usually is kind of a waste of time. But this time may be a little bit more of a contest. And we're having a forum at Lincoln High School.
May 22nd, which is Friday at 5 p.m. Our moderator is the Earl Morgan, as usual, correct?
Yes, that's right. Let me tell you, I've done these things now for 25, 30 years.
But let me tell you when you know you've done something well. When the community asks before you even announce, when will it be?
Oh yes, you know, this is the interesting thing about our forum. The last forum we did was the Board of Education.
Correct.
And there are other forums throughout the city. And the candidates during both this last Board of Ed election and the one before that,
The freehold.
were actually announcing during the other forums our forum, which I found puzzling at first. But our forum is the one they would rather be at. We try to make it as interesting as possible, and I try to ask questions that are a little bit off the beaten path. And though we will cover all the issues of taxes and pensions and all of that, but there are other things that need to be talked about because all politics is local, as Chip, what's his name from O'Neill from Massachusetts said. So if you're going to be the state assemblyman or the assemblywoman, because we have a young lady running who I know very well, then we need to know how you're going to make everything you do there pay off for the people here. Because we're the ones that are paying you and we're the ones that are sending you. So we're going to make sure that happens.
I think the main thing that we offer is we make sure we are fair.
Oh yes.
And that our public, our audience, has a chance to ask their own questions and they are so engaged. And this is an exercise for us in information and education for our communities so that we can make sure our voters are voting issues and that they understand these issues. And that's why we have the guests that we have on, because we want to provide information and education so that we are involved society. Civics of the emerging activists. Why is it so important? Because by taking that course, what do you learn? You learn that the country you complain about, the things that you don't like, it's about you, that man in the mirror, that you're not doing your job because you are the people. So if you don't like the way something is going, you go out there, you vote and change it, or you run for the office and then do what you said you were going to do. Because if you don't, guess what? We fire you with the next election. Isn't that what we do?
That has happened.
That's right.
We have had elections here, and an interesting thing about the so-called African American community in Jersey City. The Hudson County Democratic Organization is supreme here in many ways. There's no doubt about it. But several times in my lifetime, since we've had a mayor council government, the African American candidate ran as an independent
That's right.
and won the election. And they beat the Hudson County Democratic Organization. Now, Ward F is the only place that I can think of where that's ever happened. But it tells you that the people in our community want something different. And we want to bring them the information. We want to make sure these forums are well attended. We want to make sure that we're asking the questions that people want asked, and we're going to give them an opportunity to ask the questions we don't ask
True.
for themselves. So we're hoping to see your faces in the place May 29th?
May 22nd, which is
22nd,
Friday,
Friday.
at Lincoln High School at 5 p.m. The important part of this is everything is political. We all realize that. Everything that's happening that you like, you should make sure it continues. Everything that's happening that you don't like, you should know the issues and you should see where the candidate you think stands on it. If questions are not asked that you think should be, you should be the one to ask it. If you can't do that, you can write it down and we will ask it for you.
Yes.
But you should have your issues and your questions answered. That way, you come out to vote, you encourage your neighbors to come out to vote, you bring people out to vote, and you make sure, because at each of these forums, voter registration is there, voter information is there, you know what this candidate is running for, what their job description is, and you vote.
You know, to give you one other example of how this can work, we had an election, a mayoral election here one year, and the candidates ran a pretty racist election. One of the tickets ran a pretty racist election campaign, and they actually on election day moved to stop Hispanic and black voters from voting. They really, I mean, they put cops on the polls. It was just, and people would come in to vote, and they can go home. The voter ID thing, go get your telephone bill or your light bill or whatever. And you know what was interesting? They forgot something about the African American voters. The African American voters. So they might not have wanted to vote until you told them they couldn't vote. Now that's another thing. They may decide not to vote, but you don't make that decision for them. So they just kept coming back, and they won that election. They beat the machine, and I mean they beat them well and badly. So it shows you that what can happen when people put their minds to it and their backs to it and their votes to it.
You know what, Earl, while we have a moment, I want to cover something that's going on in the news. And it's the latest killing that we had in Detroit.
You mean Baltimore, was it? Or was it Detroit?
It's Baltimore, you're right. I have said to Earl privately, and I'm going to say it publicly, these are the issues I want to do. This is what's going on. And I feel if people don't talk about it, that's how rage is built. And as a mediator, that's what I feel. I know that when we talk, things are settled. When you don't talk about things, that's how you get to the boiling point. Because it's not us versus them. This is about injustice. I went to the march that we had in Washington, and there I stood with everyone. It was a rainbow. And I looked to the right and I looked to the left and I saw people who were crying. Remember?
Yes, I saw them on television.
Crying.
People with tears coming down.
And while I was there, you know me, I passed out a few business cards, and we got a call back from one of the radio stations in Ferguson, and they asked, you know, please let us interview you, and they wanted to interview us. And the thing that really struck me is This has nothing to do with color. To me, it has nothing to do with color. It's about not doing your job properly. Do we need the police? You bet we do. But I think your job is to protect and serve.
As a matter of fact, Facebook lately has gotten to be very active on this issue. And thank God for the phone camera. That is making life hell for bad cops.
Are you sure about that? And the reason why I asked that question, then what happened to Eric Garner?
Well, see,
there was
that-
a camera there.
You see, that is the problem. It doesn't always work. But the questions you're asking about Baltimore, what happened in South Carolina where the gentleman was shot in the back, you got to give it to the people in the South. That's the second time that's happened. The first time they shot this guy in the leg, they immediately told him, "Yeah, come here, you're out. Put this guy in jail." The same thing happened for this cop. Now, what happens is, what is important is that in the black community, we've been saying for decades that these things happen. All black men know that, all black women know that. Nobody believed us. Well, you know, now they can see it for themselves, that we weren't making this up.
But see, again, I don't think it's just black, and I'll tell you why. There was a store, Walmart, right, where as they do in the South in Walmart, because I'm from there, and he's walking around the store, they have guns, and the police came, locked, loaded, and
They
killed
have
the
guns.
man.
That's where they sell most of the guns out of
They killed
Walmart.
him. And do you know who marched for him?
Oh, yeah, yes. As a matter of fact, thank you for making that point. 3 days later, there was a demonstration in front of that Walmart of all white citizens with their guns. And their contention was, look, we walk around here, nobody bothers us, we don't get shot down. I mean, this is the other thing is that on Facebook now you'll see a number of incidents where it is not black people or Hispanic people, but whites who are being hassled and beaten by cops. This thing is bigger than, it needs to come under some scrutiny and something has to be done about it. But first people have to be made aware of it. And now the whole country, the whole world knows what's going on. I think, you know, this country is a big place. And just like the Queen Mary or the Queen Elizabeth thing, you know, you don't change, you don't turn it on a dime.
That's right.
It takes a while to get it to turn. But the turn is starting, and we're beginning to get into it now.
And with the voices of the people, we the people, that's how things change. Not an individual, not burning down someone's home, not turning on yourself. But when people come together and decide that change is necessary, that is when change occurs.
All right, we're coming up on a break. We will be back in 30 seconds with our next guest, who is a person in the cosmetology business. And that's not really all she does, but we'll be back and you'll find out in just a